I've never done acid, but I can imagine that this is exactly what it's like.
What's up, everybody? I am Johnny Christ, and this is Drinks with Johnny. Thank you guys for tuning in to another week as I have another great guest, Chris Daughtry of Daughtry, on the show. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I mean, you're on the road right now with Seven Dust, right? Is that correct?
We start that in November.
In November, okay.
Just in LA right now, doing some press for launch week, album launch, and then back home for a few days in Nashville.
Right on. Whereabouts in LA are you?
I'm right here at my hotel here in West Hollywood.
Well, right on. Let's get into the record real quick. We'll start off with that since you already brought it up. Paul Christensen reached out to us and said that you'd be a great guest. I was like, fuck yeah. And then I didn't even realize at the time there was going to be a new album at this time that we were recording, as we talked a few weeks ago. And he sent the wet transfer for it last week. I've been listening to it since. Great record. Congratulations on Heavy as the Ground.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Top 10 record or top 10 single right now in rock radio.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I think it's the first time we've seen the charts in over a decade. So we're pretty stoked that the rock community has embraced us again.
Yeah, man. I mean, well, to be honest, when Paul reached out and was going to get us in contact for the show, I was like, man, I haven't heard Daughtry in a minute. Like, I just haven't heard it, you know. And I looked back and you guys have been active the whole time, but I was like, okay, well, let's just go in straight to this new record that came out. We're recording before it come out, obviously, but it came out this weekend on Friday. This is now Monday for those of us listening at home. So I listened to it and I was like, how did I forget about this? Chris can sing his fucking ass off. And I was listening to it and I was like, okay, you know, it's rocking. We're getting some rock stuff going. And then I was blown away a couple of times on the record with your vocals, man.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. This is certainly the record that, not only the record that I've wanted to make for a very long time, but I think it's the record that fans have expected from us for a very long time. And, that first record, I had a very clear vision of what kind of record I wanted to make. And then, you start to have this crossover success with Hot AC and pop radio, and all of a sudden everybody at the label starts to really focus there, and all the rock guys at the label are like, yeah, well, we got our hands tied. We're turning in these rock songs, and they're like, yeah, cool, but we're focusing on this. And so, after finishing a contract with RCA, and I was able to part ways and do my own thing, and I didn't have all these fucking
Talking
influences or voices telling me hey, you need to be doing what so-and-so's doing over here if you want to stay relevant, or hey, we need this type of song. Hey, this is going to be a hit. You got to do this. I was able to listen to my voice and be like, what the fuck do I want to do? What kind of record do I want to make? And I started going back and listening to all the records that got me excited as a kid that made me want to do this to begin with. Live, Secret Samadhi, Super Unknown, Bad Motorfinger, Alice in Chains, Facelift, and Dirt, and all those records. I was like, this is what made me want to do music in the first place. Why am I not doing this? And I didn't have anybody telling me I couldn't. So I went into it with a very clear vision of what kind of record I wanted to make. And, there was certainly the fear of not being embraced by the rock community, and then Matt Pinfield jumped on board and was like, dude, I fucking love this record, man. This is killer, and started supporting it out here in LA. And man, it's just it's been, the response has been overwhelming, so I couldn't be happier with how it turned out.
Yeah, like I said, I hadn't heard a lot from you guys in the last little while, and then listening to this was like a breath of fresh air, and hearing you just go for it on those vocals, really, especially to me. The songwriting is great too, but just when you bring up the Supernova, that 90s rock vibe, and it's like I could hear that in your voice a lot, and I guess it's something I kind of overlooked earlier on in your guys' career, and it's really prevalent on this record.
Thank you, man. It definitely, I definitely brought all my 90s influences to this record for sure. You
could hear it,
and I think I got to do some things that I've never gotten to do vocally, and just the way the songs kind of brought it out of me. And having worked with Scott Stevens, who produced it, Scott Stevens and Marty Fredrickson. Scott Stevens from the X's, Marty Fredrickson, who I've written numerous songs with these guys, but I felt like they understood me as an artist and knew what, where my sweet spot was, and they really, really brought it to life.
Well, I love that. We'll get more into that, but I noticed that you got a can there. I was just opening up my
drink. Yeah.
The title is Drinks with Johnny. What are you sipping on over there?
This is Two Roots Brewing Company. It's IPA, non-alcoholic beer.
A non-alcoholic IPA.
Yeah,
that's one I haven't had.
It's good. I quit drinking a while back, but I still like the taste of beer. So here we are.
Man, I wish I wish I didn't like the taste of beer as much as I do too, because it's like those IPAs, man, are really heavy, and I'm like sitting at home for the last 3 years ballooning up, and I'm like, I got to get fucking back in shape. So I started finding these Lagunitas Hi-Fi hops. It's sparkling water.
Nice.
It's sparkling water. It kind of tastes like a beer because it's infused with THC and CBD, but it's 0 calories. And it's just, I feel like I'm drinking a beer, and you get a nice little mellow buzz, but you don't get too fucked up. Or
there
anything.
You go. The 0 calories, man. That's the key. This has 120. I need to switch over.
Oh, come by the house, man. I got you hooked up. No worries.
Right on.
That's interesting. You just said you quit drinking a few years ago. What was the press?
No, actually, back in December. It was just like, it wasn't even like I think when the pandemic hit, it was like it became like so easy to just like, fuck it, like what else am I going to do with my day?
I think that was everybody at home.
yeah. And then I just woke up one morning going, and I think I'd been kind of like thinking about it for the past 5 years, and I was just like, I think I'm done. I just decided I didn't want to anymore, and I can be around it. It doesn't bother me if anyone else is drinking. I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
so
it's just not for you. It's not anymore at this point.
Yeah, just a personal choice.
Do you ever think you'll go back, or is it just like? Do you ever think, or is it just like you'll see how life goes? I mean, it seems like more.
Yeah, it's not even something. It's not even something I really think about.
Yeah.
I definitely don't miss waking up with a hangover.
You son of a bitch! You called me out on my own show.
I definitely don't miss that.
No, neither do I. That's why. I mean, I just like everybody else, like you said, over the last year, it's so easy just to like start drinking like at like I don't know, early as 2:00 in the afternoon every day. So it's
yeah.
And then
absolutely.
I was doing this podcast virtually the same way, and I was like, well. Someone wants to start drinking with me at 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to say no, and we
exactly.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was definitely a lot of fun moments, but you're right. I don't miss the hangovers from it as much.
100%, man.
I had to bring that drinking back quite a bit. So I was like, man, I don't even like feeling like this the next day anymore. I think that comes with age too.
Totally.
I don't remember feeling like that in my 20s.
Oh no doubt. Once I hit 40, man, everything changed.
How old are you now?
I'll be 42 in December.
In December? Oh, wow. Happy birthday, because I probably won't talk to you again until then.
Yeah.
But I turned 37 this November, so not too far off on the months. And yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back to where everybody probably first got to know the name Chris Daughtry was on season 5 of American Idol, right?
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that was in 2002. I had just joined the band Avenged Sevenfold when you were starting out there and getting known. I just had a few questions about that because I've never known that experience, nor have I talked to anyone else through that. Was that kind of, what were the behind the scenes like? I mean, everyone sees the pressure and getting to know you, like they bring in the interviews and there's always the backstory, especially for the guys that made it further and further into the show. Was there a lot of help, with a lot of influence behind the scene and what you guys got to do?
It was weird, man, because this was in like 2005, 2006, before social media, before before iPhones even. So like,
That's right, 2005,
we didn't.
6. Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah,
said
so we
2002.
weren't.
I think. Sorry.
So we weren't like, we couldn't even post shit. Like that wasn't even heard of at the time. It was
Right.
so weird. Like looking back at how so much has changed since then, and as well as with our industry, it's like unrecognizable
Right.
from when I got started till now. But it was, it was certainly weird, and we were in a very isolated bubble. We weren't allowed to go out. We weren't allowed to, really leave the compound, so to speak, the apartment complex. And if we did, we had to have security. It was very, very sheltered, very. And then I remember going to the Grove, and like people would like, because you're kind of in this bubble, and you're at the studio, and you're in front of cameras, but you're not around the public. So I remember the first time actually being recognized. It was such a weird feeling because, nothing's different on my end. I'm just doing shit on TV, and all of a sudden people at the Grove were like kind of like crowding around us. And it was, I remember that was a huge, like, oh shit moment. Like, this is real. Like, and I don't think I ever really got used to that aspect of it. I still forget sometimes that people know who I am. I just go out and do my own thing. And I think that was one of the weirdest things for me, because, I just wanted to be in a rock band and wanted to play rock music and be on stage. I never really, thought about the fame aspect that comes along with being on television. So that was definitely a weird thing to get used to.
Yeah, and as I said, that was season 5, so it was really early on in the show that ended up, spawning so many big names through it, not even just the ones winning. But I had one quick question. You mentioned that you guys were like on a lockdown. Can you explain exactly what the reason was for that? Was that because while you guys were filming, they didn't were you guys filming early, or wasn't it live? I don't remember. I
think they wanted to make sure we were protecting the brand.
Okay.
In hindsight, like a lot of us were older, so we could go out and go to bars and party it up, and they didn't want anybody making a, bad name for the show. So they really encouraged us to stay, like, if you're going to, hang out and drink or whatever, you do that in your apartment, do not go out. It was very strict. And then I found out later, like, I think once social media and everything happened, like, everything went out the window. Like,
right.
They could just do whatever. They could even, promote things. We weren't even allowed to have websites. Like, if you were in a band or had any kind of side musical project, like, you weren't allowed to have anything that promoted you whatsoever. So I was in a band at the time, and they had to like take me out of the picture on the website. It was super weird. We weren't allowed to play instruments. We weren't allowed to do any of that shit. So I remember the next season, I'm like watching them play fucking guitars, and I'm like, really? That would have been nice.
I would have loved to have brought my guitar with me. Did you bring it for the tryouts? Like, how crazy were the tryouts? Because I don't remember at what point they just got insane.
They didn't let us play it at the tryouts either. I see them do it all the time now, but we had to walk into the room cold, just walk in, and first of all, you go through like, at least in my season, you go through like 3 rounds of auditions that lead up to the judges that people see on TV. And this was back when still it was Paula, Simon, and Randy, like the original OG3.
Yeah.
And so I was on the Denver Broncos stadium field, like 10,000 people there at like 5:30 in the morning in line. You gotta like, it's like this huge cattle call, and then you're in a seat, and then they call you up, like, I think a few hundred people at a time, and you're in these separate lines. So there's like a line of 20 people in front of this judge, a line of 20 people in front of this, or they're all like producers of some sort.
Right.
In front of this producer, in front of this, and you're all probably within 10 feet apart. And one person from each line goes up all at the same time and sings in front of their respective producers. So you're hearing people like it's a mind fuck. And I just remember walking up, and I was gonna do I put a spell on you from CCR's version of it. And I just walked out, and I just went out and went, put a spell on you, and everybody was like, whoop, and like, because it was so fucking loud, and everybody like stopped and was looking like, who's this loud son of a bitch? and they were like, you're in, dude, you're in. And I think I only sang like 10, 20 seconds of it, and then it's all this paperwork, and then on to the next day in front of the executive producers, and then they were like, nah, I don't know, it's a little harsh, a little too raspy. Maybe try something from Joe Cocker or something like that. Something a little more, I don't know exactly what vernacular they used, but it was maybe a little more recognizable song or something. I don't know. But then I did that for Paula, Simon, and Randy, and it was extremely intimidating because you could tell it was TV then, because it's like this long, silence, and they're just staring at you, and I'm just like, what is even going to happen?
Yeah,
right
and
now?
I imagine you got like a studio lighting around it and everything.
Yeah,
gotta get the good
all
shots. There's all cameras getting all sorts of angles, and you're just standing there ready to go a cappella on it.
Yep, and it's the most intimidating. I think it might have been the most terrifying moment, other than singing a national anthem in front of the Browns game. that was also a terrifying moment.
When did you do that?
I think in like 2008. It was in the Chicago Bears.
Ooh,
sorry,
even more. That's more intimidating, because I was like, you can't be intimidated by the Browns in 2008. I think that was still when they hadn't been to like the playoffs in 16 years.
It was the Chicago Bears in Chicago. It was snowing. It was freezing.
Ooh, that's not good for the vocal cords.
The worst song ever, anyway, to sing, in front of thousands of people, unprompted, no music, no nothing, just you and a delayed PA.
Yeah. Oh God, that must have been brutal. I could only
but
imagine.
It worked out.
I'm not a vocalist, but like I could only imagine like that reverberation, because you got to be in the middle too. It's not like when you play stadiums or big festivals or big audiences. You're usually on one side, and then they push it all over there, completely surrounded. It's got to be coming back at you, right?
Totally. And it doesn't. It's just you're hearing it in the house, and it's a delay, and it's such a mind fuck. And you're already like, the first time you miss a word, you're going to be raked over with coals. So you're already overthinking it.
I just got to play. You guys got to play those mess ups off. That's just. Oh no, that's not meant to do that. That's the way I wanted to do it.
Bringing some artistic freedom in here.
Exactly. What football? Are you a football fan? Because we're talking about football.
It's weird. I've never. I've always enjoyed being at the games. I've never followed any sport enough to have a team. I'm one of those people that I can just go and enjoy the game for what it is. I've never really been a huge sports nut per se, but I've been around it my whole life, and either via family or my band members who are, they're all diehard sports fanatics, but I've just never been my thing.
You mentioned family. I understand you have 4 kids. Is that correct?
Actually 5. We have one we adopted who's 6, and cool. Our older ones that I've raised since they were 2 and 4 are now 25 and 23, and then me and my wife had twins. Whoa. So yeah, it's a circus.
You've been through quite a lot more than I have on that front. I've got 1 4.5-year-old son. That's it.
And you're good, dude. I promise you.
I'm calling
that's
it.
All you need. Call it now.
Well, yeah, me and the wife are one and done. We make that joke all the time. We're like, we're done. We're done.
I high five anyone who does that. That's amazing.
you mentioned family, and I brought up the kids because sports can be pretty big for the kids' life. You got to take them to soccer practice, baseball practice, football, basketball, whatever. Did you have that a lot?
We got volleyball and golf right now, so that's the two things. And my twins they're about to be 11, so they're in 5th grade now. Ooh. And they're
it's almost about to get serious.
Boy and a girl, and she's doing volleyball. Noah's doing golf, and she wants to be a track star and a gymnast, and she has all these ambitions. So I'm like, hey, go for it.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
You want to put in all that work? I'm all about it.
Do you play any of these? Do you play golf with your kids or anything like that, or are you a golfer?
They just started. I suck so bad at golf. I was like, bud,
no one's really good at golf. I'm just gonna say that's your pro.
If you want, I'm like, buddy, if you want any advice, you have a coach at school. I am not your man. I am the worst. You do not want me teaching you how to play golf. I can teach you how to hit a baseball. I can teach you how to throw a football and catch a football. Get the clubs away from me. You don't want any bad habits from me. Every time I swing, it goes to the left or the right. It's never straight.
Never straight? Yeah. Okay. Well, then we move your feet into the different direction, and that's how I started. I had a terrible slice always to the right, and I would just line up at like a 45 or more degree angle so I could get it down the fairway. And everyone's like, "What are you doing? You're aiming there." I'm like,
I play a lot?
I do now, yeah. I just started about 3 years ago, and then especially over the last year and a half, I live right on the golf course, so I was out there a lot, and it's just I'm still terrible, by the you would be fine playing.
Where do you live?
Huntington Beach.
Do you live?
Huntington Beach, Orange County.
Awesome. My keyboard player. My wife's from Orange County.
Really?
My keyboard player plays all the time on tour. I'm sure him and Tremonti are going to hit it off. But they're always. He's always bringing his clubs on tour. He lives on the golf course. He'll play like right up to show day. I'm like, how do you do it? Like, how do you have any energy for a show?
Yeah, I mean,
it's an exhausting game.
Dude, our singer does that too. Our singer always brought his clubs out. Like, we all kind of dabbled at the same time. I think one of our tour managers was a Confessori. We had a tour manager at the time who took us out. He's like, oh, dude, day off. I'm going to take you guys out golf because we weren't into it. We're in our 20s, and we're like, no, you're not getting us out on the golf course on a day off. You got to be kidding me. We went out, and a few of the guys took to it. I was like hit or miss. And then since then, like our singer Shadows would bring out his golf clubs everywhere. So he's playing in Europe. He's playing all over these places. And I'm like, man, why are you doing that? That seems so boring. And now I'm looking back, and I'm like, I can't wait to get back out on the road to go play golf.
Yeah, I've heard it's addicting, man. I've heard it's addicting.
You come out with me, Chris. We'll have some fun because I'm not good. So there's going to be no pressure whatsoever.
We can suck together.
Yeah, exactly, and just shoot the shit. It's fun as shit. But getting back to some of the American Idol stuff, but then. When was it that you came back on and was the Rottweiler for The Masked Singer? That wasn't that long ago.
That was last year night. It was right before the pandemic, so 2019.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, I saw that. So I saw that, and I was like, our producer, who is a huge fan of the Masked Singer. Him and his family watch it all the time, and he's like, dude. I remember when Chris did this, and we were freaking out because he's like, as a family, we start to get like into guessing who it's going to be, right? And it's like a family competition, right? And he's like, oh, but he had a really interesting question, and I wanted to bring it up here. How do you decide what songs you're going to sing on a show like The Masked Singer, where your object is to kind of throw off the judges, right? So you don't want to go out there and sound like Chris. You want to go out there and maybe throw them off. So, I mean, how did you choose your songs in that?
That was definitely always at the forefront of deciding. Like, it had to be songs that I loved and would be able to, because first of all, I started like pitching shit that would have been like way up, like Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, fucking, Ice Ice Baby, stuff that would have just been like so, and they're like, okay, we got to be serious here. We want you to sound good. We want you to sing good. And I'm like, yeah, but they're gonna know it's me if I do this, and so did Hall and Oates, and I wanted to stick to more soulful stuff that didn't really force me to be at the top of my range, because it's hard to mask it, no pun intended, anyway. But when you're like out there in this 80-pound fucking, mascot suit, and you can barely breathe, you're just happy that you can get the notes out.
I was going to
Anyway,
ask about that too. That was going to be a follow up there. Like, I was curious, like, because you're muffled too, right? There's got to be a mesh right there. Do they have specific costumes for that so you can still project a little bit, or are they just like, go figure it out, buddy?
Yeah, there was a mesh like right here, so I had to keep the mic right there, and then the open of the mouth was where I could see out of, but it was like the size of an index card. And I remember, you do all the rehearsals, all the choreography, and you've got a mirror in this choreography room, so you can kind of see like where you're facing and get your bearings. The first time I get out on that stage, the lights are going. I have no fucking idea where I am, where the camera is. They're like turning me around. I'm like, how am I going to not fall off the stage? You can't see shit.
Wow.
And it took some time to get used to, for real. I was staring at my feet a lot, and they had to put extra markers on the floor to like face this way. It was really tough. It was the most difficult.
Physical way of singing, I would imagine, because you're mentioning also you're going down, and as a singer, you want to get your lungs up here, and if you're looking down the whole time, that's not going to be very comfortable either.
I had no idea how restrictive it would feel, and you're recycling your own air essentially. So 2 lines in, and you're fucking winded. You're like, oh my God, like this is how am I going to get through? Luckily they weren't 3.5 minute songs. They were like 2 minutes.
Yeah, they're just doing the short versions, right?
those 2 minutes felt like an eternity. But I remember one time, this was the craziest thing is you have no idea who's on the show. Like, you have no idea who you're up against. We're not allowed to be near any of the other contestants. We don't see them. You're not allowed to talk because they didn't want us recognizing anybody's voice. Even the producers didn't know who some of them were. There was only certain people that were allowed to know. I mean, which is crazy, because if I would have known like Seal, I was up against Seal and Patti LaBelle, I would have been like shitting myself, right? Like that's who I was up against. And I remember there was one time they brought us all out on stage together, and I'm sitting back there. We're not allowed to talk, and we're all just kind of like gesturing to each other. And I'm looking around, and I'm going, I've never done acid, but I can imagine that this is exactly what it's like. All these fucking weird ass characters like dressed up and doing like robot movements, and
some trips
we're not
are
allowed
like
to
that.
talk.
I have done acid before, and I can tell you some trips are like that. Not all of them.
And some not so good. But it was pretty gnarly, man. It was probably the trippiest thing I've ever done in my career. But I had a lot of fun doing it, and I actually, I reckon any singer that, I mean, just having that anonymity is fun, just to go out there and goof off and, do whatever and have nobody know who you are. That was a lot of fun.
Dude, I can imagine. It seems like everyone has a blast on that set, and I love hearing the behind the scenes that they actually don't know who's there, because sometimes you as a viewer or something, you're like, okay, they know, they all know what's going on,
Right.
And so
it's harder in the house because it's like a big lot, hearing it through a PA versus hearing it through a TV screen. So they're hearing something, a little more washed out than what people are hearing at home. So it's a little easier to tell at home who it is versus being in the room.
Right. And that brings me back to the American Idol stuff and the behind the scenes there. Like, as intense as that was, at least you were kind of in your bubble, so you didn't understand, as you pointed out earlier on, just how massive it was to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
My question there is, like, going back to like the producers behind and everything like that. You were one of the finalists, but you didn't win all the way, and you got your contract. You created Daughtry after that, out of that success.
Yeah.
but you were still able to do it more on your terms. Whereas I got to imagine the winner, the overall finalist at American Idol, has that set in stone contract that they're going after, and now they got to listen to everybody. Did you feel like you kind of, in a way, there's a silver lining to not winning the whole thing, that you could go off and do your own thing rather than having to start your first album, your first whatever, with the American Idol producers?
Yeah, and I'm not really so sure what their contract was like, but I do feel like, in essence, I dodged a bullet. You know, I was always inspired by bands. I was always, you know, every artist that made me want to do this was in a band. You know, I was always in bands. So it just never felt like, I never saw myself as going out as like Chris Daughtry, you know, like some, you know, solo artist. Right. That was just never any kind of attraction to me. So, you know, I knew that we had to have some sort of name recognition coming off the show. And I just figured, hey, pull a Bon Jovi and use your last name. but
when you got, well, that works.
Yeah,
when you got a cool enough sounding name, you know, like my real last name would never work for a band. I'm just saying it right there. It would never work.
But Christ would be a great band.
It would, but then it would confuse a lot of people. They'd think it was some kind of Christian rock band, and then or exactly. Is it anti? And I'd be like, no, it's neither. And that would be all we talk about in interviews, and they'd be done.
Every interview, you'd have to answer that.
Yeah, you know how that is. I know how that is. Like every interview has the same staple ones, and to be honest, that's why I try not to stick to those as often as I can. But cheers to that. Cheers, real quick, because we haven't. I just realized we're about halfway through, and I still haven't said cheers.
Well, here we go.
We were talking about the contracts and everything, and you said you never saw yourself as like just Chris Daughtry as a solo artist, right. Everything that your bands. You talk about some of your influences, but moreover than that, like if that was always your path, what made you decide, hey, this American Idol thing, I'm going to go give it a shot? Yeah,
that's a good question, because it's definitely not the rock way, right? I was against it for so long. I had been playing in clubs, almost 10 years at that point. And I felt like I was spinning wheels. Mind you, this is before YouTube. This is before, you know, it was so easy to get your music out there via the internet. You know, we had MySpace, I think was like
it wasn't even very big at that point. Like
that wasn't even a huge tool to get in front of record labels or anything like that. And I was in a small town in North Carolina at the time, and I felt like I was spinning wheels. Not really, I couldn't get a good gig to save my life, because where I was at, everybody wanted like cover bands, and we did original music. And you know, the places that would hire original bands, it was these small dive bars that nobody went to, or maybe you had 30 people there that you begged to come there from work, you know, on your guest list. And I just felt
you had 30 people really when I begged my friends to come. We only came up with like 5.
Well, only 5 of them were my friends. The other 30 just happened to be there that night. Of the 25.
Yeah.
I remember always asking guys that I worked with, "Hey, you coming in? Oh, I'll see you next time." Fuck you.
The perfect result. Just fuck you, man.
So my wife kept like trying to get me to like do these, you know, talent type shows like Star Search and you know, American Idol. And I was just like, nah, you know, that's not cool. That's not the way we do it in the rock world. And, then this thing came up called Rockstar NXS. And,
that was with, Dave Navarro, right? Was Dave Navarro part of that?
That was Rockstar Supernova. So that was the second, but the first one was Rockstar NXS. And I tried out for it, and I auditioned, and I didn't get in for whatever reason. And I was like, well, you know, it was kind of deflating. But then I was just happened to start watching American Idol that season right after that to see, just to see if anything kind of changed my mind. And it was the same year that Carrie Underwood was on, and Bo Bice, and it was basically, it didn't seem as pop as I had remembered it from prior seasons. And I was like, oh, well, maybe there is room for someone like me, but no one's done, kind of a modern rock vibe. So I'm either going to get in and make it a week or two, or they're going to hate my guts. And, it was at least worth a shot. And it worked out.
Well, I mean, there's one part that's undeniable about all the contestants of American Idol is they can sing their asses off. I mean, that's one thing that like everyone like tunes in for is like, after the tryouts, of course, we're talking about once the competition really starts. Yeah. But I mean, and so many huge acts have come out from those years ago. You mentioned Carrie Underwood, Kelly Clarkson. I mean, so many others. Like, and it's just really has set them off for a real platform. And I like that you keep pointing out to the fact that there was a time for this too, where it's like not necessarily works today, but like before, that was a good way to kind of catapult and showcase your talent and get in front of an audience that didn't exist for you before.
Yeah, and now everybody's got TikTok. I mean, you got Instagram. You can put that shit out there and get 1 million views. Yeah. And have a song, and you're just sitting in your bedroom. It's crazy.
Right. as I said, a lot has changed. It's pretty crazy, like to see what has changed. But when's
the last time you were on the road? When's the last time you guys toured?
The last time we toured we got off the road in 2018 summer. We finished up our European run of those festivals that are huge, and you get out and you can't miss those summer festivals if you're in a rock.
We're doing those next year. We were supposed to be on it this year, but
well, you know what? We'll probably we announced a couple of dates on those too. So
I think we might be doing Download Festival together.
Oh, really?
And Rock and Ring Park, maybe. I think I remember seeing we might be on the same day.
That'd be great. Well, we'll have to reconnect and say hey in person at least, maybe before then.
Yeah,
but
maybe
if not, we'll definitely do it then.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we got off the road from those European in 18. We had a last bit of a tour, like our last little U.S. run was going to be with Prophets of Rage, and our vocalist had an issue, and we had to cancel the tour. We were like, all right, well that sucks, but he'll rehab. It'll get us time to work on a new record. He's rehabbing. We're writing a new record. We're getting into the new record. We're about to like really get into the new record. And then everyone knows what happened. So we just like kind of went, okay, let's take our time now because there's no rush now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for us right now, we're finishing that up and we're going to get out next year sometime. But yeah, to answer your question, we got off and this will be I was talking to like just one of my neighbors and they're like, man, I've never seen you home this much. I'm like, I know, like since the age of 18, this is by far and away the longest I've been home for one stint. And it's kind of, it's nice because I got a young family, but it's also like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yes. I'm with you. I hadn't been home this long in like 15 years. So it took some getting used to, man. I had a bit of an identity crisis at first. I couldn't just run and escape to the road, I had to like learn how to be a dad again and a husband. Like, holy shit, I gotta like face some stuff.
No shit. I think a lot of us did, man. I know for me, I'm very thankful I started therapy before that, and then I was just like, I'm only gonna talk. Yeah, same, man. Before I'd only talk to my therapist every few months, something like that, and then I was like, no, we're getting on the phone once a month now, dude. Like I need this.
I started therapy before COVID, and then COVID happened, and we've had a few phone calls, and then I dove into the record, and that became my therapy. So I think everybody needs therapy.
I agree. Well, to me, at this point in my life, I look around and I have a lot of friends and everyone's very open about it now, which is great. Because a lot of people, there was a stigma for so many years about, if you're talking to a therapist, there's something wrong with you. It's like, well, first of all, there's something wrong with everybody. If you think there's something wrong with you, I don't really want to know you at this point in my life because you're not working on yourself anymore. you got to continually
agree,
work on
man.
yourself as a human being. Like, even if you're not, it's kind of like you're not at the pinnacle. The pinnacle is when you leave this body. Like, that's like,
Absolutely.
you're not there yet.
Absolutely.
So just keep working.
The teacher who is not a student is neither.
Oh, I like that. I like that line.
I don't know who said that, but I love it.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you, so I'm glad. Hey, you know, but
I heard it. I heard it recently. I'm like, yes, I'm a sponge, man. I'm always trying to be the best, you know, the next best version of me.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, it's not even necessarily like the next best thing. And it's just, no, I mean, it's a process. My life, that's what this life is for me, is it's a process of working on myself and all that, you know, all that fun, nice, peaceful shit. And everyone will comment down below, Johnny's too woke these days or some bullshit like that. I don't even know what that means. But, you know,
what is it?
Johnny's too woke these days or something. I've seen a couple comments like that. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, man. I'm just trying to live my life.
It's just self-awareness, man. And like you said, there's so much stigma about, you know, I think whether you're in the music industry or just a human being in general, I think we all have things that we have to reflect on sometimes. And I think the more open we are about it, the better we become as human beings.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm glad that we're having this chat and realizing we're going to get to see each other at least next summer, hopefully sooner than that.
Yeah, totally.
But I want to get back. I want to get back to just a couple more things. You talked about your musical influences, the easy one to go to. But what for this record, this new record, Dearly Beloved, that just came out Friday? What was you said therapy and you mentioned a couple of 90s rock albums, but what was, I mean, I know that this was your first record kind of being yourself without any outside influences, as we talked about at the top. What was like the writing process per se on it? Like, not just when you were laying it down vocally, everything like that.
Yeah.
Pen to paper lyrically, when you're writing with your guitar, like what was the, you know, what was the inspiration on those moments, not the overall thing, like those moments?
Well, I think we went into this record keeping it very close to the chest. It was me, Scott, and Marty, for the most part, in the studio, just kicking around different ideas. And this was pre-pandemic. And I had a couple songs that I had written prior to going into the sessions that I had kind of waiting to develop. You know, the opening track of the record was, you know, me just, you know, I remember starting to write this song. It's called Desperation on the last tour, like during warm-ups, you know, before the show. I had this idea and I kept, you know, for me, it always starts with like a melody and a chord progression and gibberish, you know.
The melody is gibberish, right? The melody is always
and then I'll record that on my phone and I'll just listen to it. And it sounds like I said this or what. At least it gives me some vowels and phonetics to like kind of gravitate towards and kind of figure out words later. And
I like that.
And it was kind of just, it was a very introspective record and very reflective record of what's going on around me. And just kind of writing down, I've never really been one to write about current events or politics or news or anything like that. But I had a hard time not writing about how things were affecting me. And it may be because I was in a more vulnerable place personally and opened up to, you know, my feelings more, and that sort of informed the lyrics. And but that song was kind of inspired by just seeing all the shit going on in the world with, like, I mean, you're hearing about like child sex trafficking, you're hearing about you know, people being locked up at the border, like all this stuff going on, and I just started spilling out these ideas, and I was like, the only, like, desperation calls for love to come and lead us home, and love is going to mend these bones. And
Great lyrics,
but
by
it
the
was
way.
this,
I did find
thank
them
you.
pretty. I did find them pretty inspiring and very, as you said, in this moment. Not the band that I love as well, but like
Yeah.
it is very
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
in this moment of our time. And I've always found, for me, in our band, is we write for ourselves in that moment of our lives and that moment in our time. And it sounds like
Yes.
you've really done that on this record, where you're like, I don't need to talk about what's necessarily going on, but how it's affecting me, and using that as your muse. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes. 100%. 100%. And weirdly enough, like World on Fire, we wrote before the pandemic, before COVID, before the George Floyd incident, before any of this stuff, and we had all of that in there. The sickness is rising, the angels are crying. That's the sound of a world on fire. 20 dead without a fight, without a reason. 20 more in a cop car bleeding. Like,
and that was all before
we're like,
all this shit.
That was all before, and we're like, what the fuck?
Clairvoyance, clairvoyance. I know the album's already
so,
called Dearly Beloved, but you could have put clairvoyance on there.
we literally we knew it was going to be the first single, but we sat on it for a while because it felt too opportunistic to release it right away. It felt a little on the nose. We're like, this is going to seem like we just saw the news and wrote this song and go, you know. So we just had to sit on it for a minute, but yeah, like there was no shortage of things to write about, for sure. But it came from, you know, I think a very broad place where I think so many people can relate, and it doesn't feel time stamped. It feels like this is going to be relevant next year, you know, because there's always shit going on, right. You know, and this is going to be relevant this year because we all need help. We all could, you know, reflect on this at any time. So, yeah, I think that was, like you said, it became, you know, everything around me just became this muse for the lyrics, and it didn't feel like contrived or trying to write a radio song or anything like that. It just, like, this is where I'm at right now. This is what's coming out, and it felt very real.
And I'm sure it's got to feel very freeing for you to come back on the 6th record and do this all yourself, as you said. I think that's absolutely awesome. I absolutely love Heavy Is the Crown. I don't know if it's happened yet, but I really hope that some sports like casters pick it up and put it in between, like on ESPN and shit, because it sounds,
that would be dope.
Sounds like it would, you know, you're doing your montage for one of the like the NFL or something like that. You're kind of like, it sounds like it could go along with that, man. So I hope
or
that
MMA could do it. Like,
any of it, man. It would. I think it goes. I think the sound lends itself to that. So I hope that works out for you. And the video, that last thing I got to ask about is, I know you guys are. I know you personally really into the imagery on everything from this record. Tell me a little. I just watched the video, and I know that you're gonna keep releasing these new chapters of it because you leave it to be continued at the end. You tell me a little bit about the imagery of this record.
That those videos definitely come from a very my fascination with comic books and you know, growing up, you know, I've been a nerd all my life.
You've actually drawn covers. You've actually drawn covers of some DC and Marvel comics, I understand.
Yeah. That was my first love, man. Before I got into music, I wanted to be a comic book artist back when I was like, you know, young kid, you know, and then I realized, like, they sit at a desk for like 8 to 10 hours a day. I was like, fuck that. I want to be more active. And then I found music and fell in love with that. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I heard you interviewed Kevin Eastman recently, and that was I was a huge Ninja Turtles fan growing up.
Dude, I think everyone was, man. I saw him on the Netflix special, The Toys That Made Us, and I would like immediately. My manager just told me I needed to check that out. I'm behind on it. So I'll give you a little insight on that real quick, though, because I did watch it, and I was like, oh, that's sad. Those guys don't really get along anymore. And the first thing I asked about, he's like, no, they totally fabricated.
It was all fabricated, yeah.
So everyone, you can go check out that episode too. He was a really nice guy, man. He was really cool. I think you'd like him a lot.
That's awesome. But yeah, I've even thought about, like, I kind of looked at the videos, like, how do we make this kind of like, my love for comics and film, and put that all together with the music and make something really cool that I'd never done before. And then I realized just how expensive music videos are when you don't have a label.
Oh, the budgets just keep going down and down,
like,
and the ideas get bigger, and you're like, how am I going to make that idea fucking happen?
We're like, we spent what? No.
Yeah, when you got your own label, which is awesome, man. I'm really happy for you, but I know we're running out of time here. We could get into so much more of the imagery, artistry, everything that you do, and I hope that we can again sometime, but I don't want to take any more. I know you
would love to.
Long week of press here for a very cool record, man, that's coming out this Friday.
Thank you very much.
It's already out by the time everyone's watching this. So yeah, thanks a lot, man. Everybody go check out Daughtry's new record, Dearly Beloved. It's out right now. It's really, really fucking good. There's some great stuff in there. What is your range, by the way? What's the highest note in your range?
Probably a C# on a good day.
Ooh, that's
not every day. That's every
good
day.
Though, man. That's good. That's up there. That's up there. All right, man.
There's a lot of C#. There's a lot of C# on this record.
I heard him. That's why I was like, what the fuck? That's up there, man. He's going.
I'll be kicking my own ass when it comes time to sing that live every night.
Isn't that the case every time?
I can't wait to hear you guys' new stuff.
I'll show you some stuff before. Maybe next time you're out in LA or I'm in Nashville,
awesome,
I'll bring some stuff to show you. But again,
Sounds
thank you
good.
so much for your time, man. Really, really fucking cool chat. Let's stay in touch and do this again in person sometime.
Absolutely, man.
All right, have a good one.
Sounds good, Johnny. Thank you so much, man. Be well.
Cheers. Thanks, guys, so much for checking out this episode of Drinks with Johnny. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications button. I saved that to the end for you. But go check out more of our videos. This was a great chat with Chris. I'm so glad I got to meet him and have this chat with him. We're going to do another one down the line in person, I'm sure. Again, head over to drinkswithjohnny.com for everything that's involved with this show. And thanks to all you filthy animals for your support. And until next time, as always, cheers.